as we lean into this relational space, there are broad conceptual frameworks that we can lean into. There are also very tangible and specific actions that can be taken by you as foundations to build the relationship. And I wanted to offer a few. The first is amplify the new narrative. You have an incredible capacity to amplify a new narrative. And there is a new narrative in Canada. Okay? The understanding of the nature of the residential school system, the impact of statutes like the Indian Act are starting to become known. They're starting to become known. The true beauty of Indigenous culture and Indigenous language and Indigenous worldview is starting to become known in this country. This is a prophesied time. The old narrative was that the government takes care of the natives. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that, this old narrative that the government has the responsibility of the fiduciary duty to care for Indigenous people. That our tax dollars are already being wasted on excessively generous free services for First Nations. Right? This old narrative, thankfully, is expiring, and it's being replaced by a new narrative. A narrative that there is opportunity in this space, incredible opportunity, and there is a cost to us not to embrace that opportunity. Many companies in this country are realizing that truth today. Foundations in Canada can play a crucial role in amplifying that narrative through social media, through your publications and at your events. And of course, Gord Downey is doing an incredible job today of amplifying that new narrative, right? Incredibly courageous. We can conduct policy research and develop a national philanthropic reconciliation policy framework. Okay, this can be done individually by foundations and collectively by organizations like PFC and CFC and the Circle. I hope Wanda is here. What an incredible lady, Wanda Brascope-Peters, and the work that she's doing in the Circle on Philanthropy and Aboriginal people. Set targets for hiring Indigenous people and recruiting Indigenous board members. It was what an incredible journey for myself as an Indigenous man to have been welcomed into the family of the Vancouver Foundation. We need to educate our donors on the oncology of the problems they are trying to solve, right? Including the journey of reconciliation. I get the sense we're entering into a new paradigm and one where donors are much more engaged than they've ever been. And we need to invite them into the learning journey of reconciliation. I got that intel from Craig, donor involvement and donor engagement. Learn about and follow protocol. This is something you see many institutions, universities, governments, particularly municipal governments, corporations, at the beginning of a meeting, acknowledging, including board meetings, acknowledging the territory of the Indigenous nation where you're gathered. Put up a sign in your office that acknowledges the traditional territory that you're on. When meeting with an Indigenous elder or an elected official, offer a small gift, something sacred and something simple. It could be tobacco, it could be something meaningful, something you baked, and it says, "I'm here in a good way." Okay? Respect and signs of respect are absolutely crucial as we lean into the relational space. Support your staff to volunteer for Indigenous nonprofit societies. You have an incredible capacity. Indigenous communities need that capacity, and it's an incredible mutual learning opportunity. Set small procurement targets to purchase goods and services from Indigenous social enterprises. We're encouraging government to set a 2% target of purchasing goods and services from Indigenous social enterprises. Participate in reconciliation training provided by Reconciliation Canada. Karen, Chief Joseph's daughter, and her team provide incredible training, and some of the foundations in this room have taken the opportunity to bring their board to a weekend of reconciliation training. It's a beautiful journey. It's a beautiful journey that you can give expression to in the context of your family, your community, your church, and all sorts of circumstances that you're in. It's beautiful. And finally, I would like to invite you to participate in the Moosehead campaign. And I wanted to comment briefly about the Moosehead campaign. I was here in Vancouver in 2010 when the Stanley Cup riots were happening. And I was at a conference like this talking about ending violence against women. And there was 285 people in the audience, 4 men, 281 women, and 4 men. And I listened for 3 days about violence, in particular against Indigenous women, about violence against women, sexual violence against women in universities, domestic violence in this country, the incidences where there are increases in places like Alberta when the economy goes down. And I just sobbed for 3 days. It stirred something like subterranean in me, something deep. At that aspect of the character of our country, that we don't yet have a country where women and children are safe and treated with love and respect. So we left, and I was not okay. And we went to do our fasting. We have a ceremonial family, and so I do a summertime fast, no food or water for 4 days and 4 nights in the summer. Think about my life, think about what kind of person I am, and suffer and reflect on the important matters of our society and of my own community. And I prayed for, what can we do? What can we do as men? Where are all the men in this space, right? Women for the last 50 years have been bearing the burden of abuse and the burden of advocacy. And so radio silence. I'm praying, thinking, nothing. So my daughter and I, Raven, we went hunting, and we harvested a moose along the Highway of Tears, Prince George to Prince Rupert here in northern British Columbia. They call it the Highway of Tears. So many women been murdered or gone missing along that highway. And I'm watching my 16-year-old daughter clean out this moose, And we had a moment of clarity together. That we could tan that moose hide and cut it up into squares and give it to men, and as a call to action, and reconciliation. We need reconciliation in the space between men and women in this country, and we need reconciliation in the space between parents and children. Okay? And so we cut up that moose hide. From there, my kids, my 4 daughters, cut up 25,000 squares of moose hide and wrote on these cards to say, if I wear this, I'm never going to hurt the women and children in my life, but I'm also going to do more than that. I'm going to stand up. I'm going to take a stand as a man and speak out against this. Okay? And so they got repetitive stress injury from cutting and writing like this. We don't have, the Moosehead campaign doesn't have WCB, so we started scaling. We started scaling the Moosehead campaign, and a few of the milestones that we've achieved now is that we're coming up on 500,000 squares of moosehide that we've distributed to men across the country. And it's simple. You put it on your shirt or your suit, and then people say, "Oh, hey, what's that thing?" And you say, "It's moosehide." And then, oh, cool. So why are you wearing that? Thank you for asking. Thank you for asking. I'm speaking out against violence towards women and children. It's not right, it's not normal, and it's not welcome in this country. And it's turned into a grass fire. We've had participation now from the government of British Columbia. The elected officials in the legislature are now wearing the Muside. The province of Alberta, the legislature, the Northwest Territories. On October 5th, we had support from the House of Commons. We were in Ottawa, and about 85% of the elected MPs were wearing the Muside with us, a number of senators. We have pilots that are being scaled through other sectors. Okay, the RCMP needs the Muside campaign badly. And so we've met with Bob Polson and some of the deputy commissioners, certainly the deputy commissioner here in British Columbia. And there are pilots happening in RCMP detachments. This is a very simple, bite-sized chunk of activity. We're working with the Canucks franchise. On January 6th, we'll have a Muside campaign day at their game against the Flames. And they will share 1 square of Muside with all 20,000 of the fans that come to the game. And we are going to have a moment of silence for murdered and missing Indigenous women before we sing the national anthem at the Canucks game. So we will then take the sesquicentennial as an opportunity to scale that practice through all of the NHL franchises here in Canada, and discussions have now started with the Montreal Canadiens. We've added a fast, 1-day fast, no food or water, to show that this is more than words. For the last 5 years, we fasted right before Valentine's Day. We say more than flowers and chocolates, you know. No food or water. Old cultures all over the planet fast when something important is happening. Okay? And what can be more important for us as men than to start to vacate our patriarchy, our position of patriarchy in this country, to create a country that we can truly be proud of, where women and children are treated with love and respect at all times, including Indigenous women. You know, we're going to have a national inquiry to find out how to get men to stop hurting women. And I think a big part of that is humbling ourselves. Fasting is a lot about humbling ourselves. So our fast this coming year is February 16th. So I invite you to join the Muside campaign. I invite each of your foundations as an act of reconciliation to join the Muside campaign, to wear the Muside, okay? And to fast with us. And so we have support for the idea of fasting, the practice of fasting. And to take a stand, to talk to our kids, you know. The influences in this society about how our young people think and feel about women are not good. Okay? Access to online information, visual material, is absolutely devastating for the future of the relationship between men and women in this country, and very specifically about how men think and feel, about how our young men think and feel about women. Okay? We need to do more as men.